This game was played in Jerusalem Masters 2025, and with the black pieces, we have Arjun Erigaisi facing off against Yahli Sokolovsky. And this game is going to be an epic matchup. This was from the first round, and you're really going to enjoy this one. So, without further ado, you're about to see some demolishment here. You're really going to love this one. Here, Yahli starts with e4. We have e5 by Arjun. We have knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to b5. This is the Ruy Lopez and a6 motifs defense. Now, just comes this bishop back to a4, and we have this knight to f6. This is the Columbus variation, and we have castles now. D6 in this position, just rook to e1, just getting that rook very nicely aligned with that king. Just keeping that bishop here in this position. Most likely c3 is going to be an option. The bishop is going to fall back. You would want chances to push that d4, and in this position just c3 was played. Now just comes g6. He's definitely trying this, the Steinitz defense, and now that bishop is going to be being kept out and castle here in this position. Just d4 was played, and now just comes bishop g7. Not even bothered about anything like that because that is not going to play. You don't want to overextend. This is not something you want to do. Here just h3 was played, and now castles. We have bishop goes back to c2 and just knight to h5. So queen to e8 and f5 are definitely in the air. In this position, just bishop to e3 was played, queen to e8 now, and just knight b2. And just king to h8, and a very calm move by Arjun. Arjun just goes for a prophylactic move, king to h8. In this position, you've made everything possible, right? You have defended the knight. Everything is very decently happening. So why not just go for f5 right away? Seems like a logical move, right? Well, that's not the case, because if you go for f5 now, you just give the advantage right back to your opponent, because after e captures and g captures, let me just show you a line. Here after d captures, just d captures, you have bishop to c5. Attacking that rook is going to have to go for f6. And now in this position, after this knight caps on e5, yes, you can sacrifice the piece, because here after knight captures, just bishop to d4, and now that pin is going to be existing. And you must be thinking, well, what pin? There is no pin. Rook g6, and I'm defending everything, isn't it? No, that's not the case, because he just bishop captures on e5, and once you go for bishop captures, now comes the idea knight to f3, and this is how many moves you need to see, and these are basically theory parts. So that's why I'm covering, so everyone needs to know this, because this doesn't work in this position, because now that piece is no longer hanging. I mean, your queen is also there, but you need to understand the ideas and tactics in this position, like rook captures on g2 is not going to work out, because you want king to capture and you want this bishop here so that you can save your piece. This is how it's supposed to be, right? Well, that's not the case, because hey, knight to f4 check. Let's say you decide to go for this first, king to h2, and after this knight to e2 check. A very nice discovery in this position. Obviously, you don't want to go for a move like this, because that just captures, and I'm just defending everything. The bishop is coming in next, and your game is about to crumble. But here after king to h1, you don't have anything. Here just bishop to c6 if you try to go for, then just comes bishop to b3 check, king moves, and bishop to d5, and the game is completely over. I've defended everything. That piece is hanging. Every trade, let's say if you decide to go for queen captures in this position, I mean, you just have so much material. The knight is also hanging. There is no way you can do anything. This position is about to crumble. But area after knight b d2, king to h8 was played, not going for all of this. That's why, because it gives just so much advantage, and if you blunder even slightest bit, your position would crumble. But here after this knight to c4, now just comes this rook to d8. So Arjun is definitely going for, well, development first, and hey, bishop to c1 was played, not even bothered about connected rooks in this position. He wants to try and wait and see what Arjun's plan is. Hey, just h6 was played by Arjun, but now just comes knight to e3, and Arjun in this position cannot wait any longer. He is bored out of his mind, and he wants to go for an attack, because it's a very boring position, and he's absolutely right. He goes for f5 and chooses the best moment for it as well. In this position, e caps on f5 would have been the wisest choice, but here just knight to d5 was played by Yahli, and now just comes this rook to c8. I mean, you have to say that pawn, there is no other way. That's why the passive move like this, just e captures, and now just comes g captures, knight to f4. Now obviously you cannot capture utilizing the pin in this position. Just knight caps on f4 was played, bishop captures, and Arjun goes and pushes the pawn forward with e4. Now your knight is under attack. Obviously you cannot capture in this position right away because of the spin, but here just knight to d2 was played nonetheless. Knight to e7 now, bishop to h2, just going with the bishop back. Bishop was not well placed there. I mean, it could be attacked, and you don't want that to happen. And in this position, you could choose to go and play it very safe with a move like, a very nice positional move, which is d5, just keeping the structure intact, and most likely you want that structure to be broken. I mean, that structure is right in your face. It's hindering your development. The knight cannot go here. The knight cannot go here. I mean, where is that knight even going? If you go there, then somewhere along the line, you just take away that square from the bishop, and you don't want that to happen. So here, f3 just makes all the more sense. But if you play f3, you weaken your king side as well. So my queen is now jumping in. It wants to grab those squares and actually try to go and checkmate you. But here, a4, taking up more space in this position towards the queen side. If you take up space in the center, I want space in the queen side. That's all there is to it. Obviously, you don't want to push those pawns towards the king side. Your king side is going to become more weak. Here, just a5 and just king to h1. But now just comes queen to g5. All of this could have been played in, but you have to be careful about such ideas as well, because now once that center is already been attacked, now you want to attack it a double times with this move c4, and everything is set up for it perfectly. Here, if c6, then just comes rook to a3, and rook to a3 is a beautiful defending resource in this position, because if rook c to e8 in this position, very nicely aligning that rook, and you have connected, everything is fine. Just f captures on e4, and once f captures, you have rook to g3, and now you understand the idea. Obviously, you never want to make that mistake because of rook captures. So what you want to play in this position is queen to f5, and the game goes on with both players having roughly equal chances. And Arjun is slight bit better. He is controlling a lot of those squares. That pawn chain looks absolutely magnificent, and the game will go on, and Arjun will most likely convert this. So that's why here d5 would have been a decent choice. But Arjun is definitely not a positional player. He's a chaotic player who likes to create chances in the position by going all out. And after bishop to h2, queen to g6 was played immediately by Arjun, not even bothered to going about a move like d5. He's like, I don't care about d5. You want to challenge those pawns? Go ahead. Here in this position, Yahli goes for f3 and rook to g8 now, but now just comes queen to e2. How do you even approach this position? Now, once you see it, that structure looks a little bit weak, and if you allow the pawn trade to happen, you're going to lose a lot of pawns, and if you lose the center, you lose a lot of your momentum. So in this position, Arjun chooses to go for the best move in this position, or the second best move in this position, which is this d5. Finally just going for that, but you can see the engine evaluation shifting. There was a better move in this position, and that move was bishop to b5, and it's not at all easy to find, because what happens if queen to f2? I mean, you're not really doing that very much in this position. Well, if queen to f2, then just comes bishop to f6, and bishop to f6 is a beautiful move, and you must be thinking, what is the point of bishop to f6? Because now just f captures, right? Well, if f captures, then you have this beautiful move, bishop to h4, and now you understand the idea, because unfortunately for you, these bishops are crisscrossing in a beautiful manner, and you cannot even capture this. If you capture this, then just comes this queen caps, and that would be checkmate. So what you would want to do in this position is actually go for this queen to f3, but now just comes this rook c to f8, and now you're in a lot of problem. So this was the thing that Arjun had to find in this position, and you're gonna have to probably go for a move like c4, just cut off one of the bishops, so you maybe you can survive, but it's a long shot. But after queen to e2, here d5 was played. So let's see what happens here after d5. King to h1, and now just comes this h5. And here after d5 finally by Arjun, just king to h1 was played. A prophylactic move, always useful. Arjun just pushes the pawn and keeps on pushing with h5. Rook to g1, now defending against everything but just bishop to h6. And now there is some trouble, because if you allow that to exist, the bishop gets locked in and your position is really bad. Rook a to f1 was played, but now comes even e3. So you give Arjun a bit too much. Knight to b3 was played, but here bishop to b5. Now going for the same idea, and now you're in a lot of trouble. You have to defend in this position, it seems so, but that's not the best move in this position. There is one move in this position that can save you, and it's not at all difficult to find. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video, try and find out this move which saves the game for you. Have at it. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find the idea. The idea is not to block this, but to go for this check with bishop to e5. And it's a beautiful resource in this position, because now after king to h7, you have queen to e1. Yes, you can go back and sacrifice the exchange in this position, because after bishop captures, queen captures, you have h4. Definitely taking up more space, and it's looking very bleak, but you have a way. Queen to e1, and just trust the process, because here now after queen to g5, it seems that I'm just an exchange up for basically no compensation, but that's not the case. Now knight back to c1, and finding all of these moves in a combination is definitely difficult. But once you start with bishop to e5 check, you're able to understand why that you cannot actually save the exchange. You don't want to block with the bishop, because the position actually crumbles, and I'll show you why, because that was the move that was played in the game. But now what you can do after this is, let's say you try to go for knight to g6 to capture this e5 bishop, but you can go for knight to e2, just develop that piece, and once knight captures, d captures, you try to go for a move like c5 in this position, just try and push those pawns, but just f4. Everything is defended now. Queen to h5, just bishop goes all the way back to d1. You try and threaten that, you're gonna have to go back with the queen. Wherever you go in this position, everything is looking fine, and the thing is that you can hold this position. Even with these structures, you can try and hold this position, and most likely you will succeed, as with the engine evaluation as well. But after bishop to b5, bishop to d3 was played, and bishop to d3 is not a good move, and Arjun proves why, because here after bishop captures, queen captures, now comes the idea we have f4, and that structure is really bad because here after queen captures, rook captures, which was played in the game, d4 was tried to try and provoke this g captures, f caps on g3 en passant, but in this position you can try to go for even h4 and just completely lock down. But here after knight to c5, then you have to understand bishop to g5, and it's not at all easy, because what happens if knight caps on b7? I'm just giving away a pawn. Well, if knight caps on b7, then comes the rook to b8. If knight to c5, rook captures on b2, and yeah, this is going to be really ugly. Knight to d3 attacking the rook, rook to d2. If you're trying to save the knight, I won't trade, I'll just go after this pawn, and now I have a passer. Thank you very much. And the game goes on. This position Arjun definitely will convert if he didn't convert the other one. But here after g4, just f caps on g3 was played by Arjun, and now just comes this bishop captures, king to h7 in this position, just keeping everything intact and just giving the choices back to Yahli to do whatever the hell you want to. Your position is about to crumble. Bishop to e5 played finally, but it's a bit too late. Rook captures on g1, and after rook captures, just rook to f8 was played, trying to go after the pawn, and maybe the best defense in this position was to go a little bit passive and go for this rook to f1, just defending it everything, right? Knight to g6, then just comes bishop caps on c7, finally grabbing a pawn, bishop to f4 now, and here just bishop to e5. And let's say you try to go for h4, then just comes this knight to c1 finally, but here just bishop caps on e5, d captures, knight captures, and after knight to e2, the game goes on with both players having, well, not so equal chances, because here after king to g6, the thing is that Arjun's position and this endgame is completely lost. I mean, here you're not going to find right ideas. But after rook to f8, knight to c5 was played, and now just comes this rook caps on f3. You've given up the f3 pawn, and this endgame is really about to be over. Knight to d7, now just comes even e2, but here just knight to f6 check, rook caps on f6, even bishop captures, and now that passer is going to be pushed. Knight to f5 was played, just defending against any potential checks, and also that knight is going to be jumping in soon. King to g2 was tried, but now this position is completely over. Try and find the final blow, and I'll just show it to you. Bishop to d2, and now that passer is going to be pushed. Here bishop to e5 was played, but it was also on this move that Yahli Sokolovsky resigned the game, and Arjun got the spectacular victory in just 40 moves. That's absolutely spectacular, and why he resigned is basically you cannot do anything in this position. Even if you try anything else, let's say e1, queen just comes, and after this rook captures, bishop captures, bishop caps on c7, you're able to grab a pawn, but after bishop to d2, I'm just up a piece, and not only that, this position you cannot save. Even if you try, you think you can maybe just have some passes and you can try and maybe force black to actually sacrifice a full piece. It's not going to happen. King to f3, then just comes bishop to c1, just targeting the base of the pawn chain, and after bishop to a5, just king to g6. If b3, knight to h4 check, king moves, now just comes king to f5, my king is coming in, bishop to d3, then just even knight to g2. If a4, bishop to h6, if b4, knight to f4 check, and this is just basically a line. If one of the pawn captures, whatever you do in this position is not going to matter. Here after this bishop to e5, a captures, bishop to h2, knight to f4, and after bishop captures, you're going to have to sacrifice because that passport is not going to be pushed. Whatever you do, this game is completely over. That's why here after bishop to e5, he resigned the game, and Arjun got a spectacular start to the tournament with an amazing win. I mean, he had the advantage most of the tournament, so that should not, I mean, most of the game, but that should not come as a surprise, because he played a spectacular game right from the Ruy Lopez, where he decided to go for a different Chinese defense, and after that bishop to g7 and castles. He did not go for that immediate f5, but kept on, putting pressure against, and finally once that knight to e3 hit, then he was able to push forward with that f5 idea, and then he got a very nice advantage after queen to g6, and Yahli was completely pushed backwards, and it's very difficult to try and survive when Arjun is coming onwards towards and trying to attack you. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.